We hit another big, beautiful zone of alteration, some very nice quartz veins, and then sure enough, the quartz veins had visible gold in them. So we're awaiting assays on 9 of the 21 holes we've drilled at Jupiter, and those 9 holes cover really, most of the most impressive stuff that we've seen so far. So we're very excited to get these assays back.
Hello to viewers tuning into Assay TV. In this session, we're catching up an update from Snowline Gold, who are developing greenfield gold assets in the Yukon, and they've got some really interesting updates for us and new drill intersects that we're really keen to hear about. So I'm very pleased to be speaking again with Scott Berdahl, CEO of Snowline Gold. Scott, hello, how are you?
I'm great, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. So last time we spoke, you've been drilling the Jupiter project at Einarson, or we're just about to start, in fact, and you've firstly had some great results and then had some significant intersects more recently. Could you take us through an update of what the findings were?
Yeah, so I think we were around hole 18 in our drilling last time we chatted, and we just gotten results back from hole 6, which had 7 meters of about 4 grams per ton. And so, we were excited to see that. It's not a headline number, but it's for a brand new, never before drilled target, especially a blind target. It was a good result to get. And so, and at the same time, we had just gotten into some very visually interesting stuff over some pretty big intervals. And so I had talked about that a little bit. And, we have finally started to get some of those holes back. Not too long after we talked, we got hole 11 back, which we had rushed, and that had several very nice intervals. We had 13 grams over 6.5 meters farther down the hole, a nice broad kind of gram level mid zone, and up towards the top of the hole around the 50-meter mark, we had about 10.5 grams over 5 meters. So, so both of those intervals were very nice to see, and also just the widths of the mineralization, as well as just hitting multiple mineralized structures within the same hole. And since then, we've received more results from the lab. Last week, we just had a press release out with the surrounding holes from hole 11, holes 10, 12, and 13, which we drilled out in a fan going multiple directions. Even at one point, sort of turning the drill around for hole 13 and drilling what we thought was away from our target. And we hit very nice zones of mineralization in all of those holes. Hole 10 had very comparable results to hole 11. Intervals like 10 grams over 6 meters. We had 13 meters of 3.5 grams. We had 5 grams over 5 meters at the top of the hole. Hole 13, which we drilled away, had a 27-meter zone of about 2.5 grams and 10 meters of 4 grams. And I guess those numbers just start to kind of fade in the background at some point. But I encourage anyone to go check out our press releases and check out our materials, because the way that the system is holding together is really the big story there. It's one thing to hit a discovery hole. It's something else altogether to have multiple holes hit over a broad zone. And again, I just want to iterate that this is a blind target. So, we didn't really have a nice mineralized outcrop with a high trench sample or something to step 10 meters back from and drill. Right. We're really just kind of getting into this system, hitting, these are pretty random shots. We're making educated guesses. We have reasons to drill where we drill, but at the same time, it's a big anomaly. We're testing it pretty randomly, and we're hitting very consistently. And so when we spoke, I was very excited about what we were seeing in holes 10, 11, 12, and onwards up to hole 18. And I'm still very excited about, these holes to come. Holes 15, 16, and so on are looking really intriguing, including we've stepped out in fairly large step outs to holes 15, holes 16 through 18. And then we took a very large step to the north, about 1.1 kilometers, knowing we didn't know the assay results, but we knew that we were into good stuff with what we were seeing, or we were confident. And it's very nice to have that validated now with these spectacular assays. But with that bird in hand, we jumped up way to the north and drilled a few holes on a target that we otherwise didn't really know how to drill, except for, let's just try it. And so we did, and we hit another big, beautiful zone of alteration. some very nice quartz veins. And then sure enough, the quartz veins had visible gold in them. So we're awaiting assays on 9 of the 21 holes we've drilled at Jupiter, and those 9 holes cover really, most of the most impressive stuff that we've seen so far. So we're very excited to get these assays back.
Fantastic. Yeah, loads going on with Jupiter. Really good. You're putting the drill in and you're getting great results wherever you go. But like, does that change the strategy then? Is it a case that you're going to continue going wider based on the good results that you've had, or are you going to hone in and really focus the drill bit to sort of define what you've already found?
That's a good question, because both those approaches I think are justified. We do need to hone in to start building a resource.
Yeah.
At the same time, especially with this step out to the north, and we've drilled about 1.1 kilometers of a 3-kilometer soil anomaly and float train, and so this has the smoke there to be a very big system, and from what we've drilled so far, it does look to be a very big system. So we might add value by doubling down in one area and building a resource, but at the same time, we're just getting oriented in the system and figuring out how big it is. So ideally, we'd like to have 2 drills there going, and basically pursuing both of those approaches simultaneously. One drill that gets back into the meat of where we're finding these nice intervals and stepping out. So far we've in these 150 meter, 200 meter step outs, we're still hitting stuff in these fairly blind shots. So getting a better idea of the continuity and the better idea of the orientations and so on as we build towards a resource would be very important. And a second drill could continue to jump around and continue to just really probe the limits of the gold mineralizing system at Jupiter, which at this point is still open in all directions.
Yeah, you mentioned this sort of number of results you're waiting back from the lags, and there was a backlog earlier this year for a lot of miners, particularly in the Yukon as well. Is that still a challenge at the moment, waiting on assays, delaying results because they've just got so much to get through?
It is, yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have all the results back at once, but I guess for I like to think that our investors get the story and where we are and what we're doing. But for the impatient investor, anyway, it does provide a continuous news flow through the winter season in the Yukon. So there's that silver lining. But no, it would be nice to get it all back at once. But right now, it's based on the backlogs. I mean, I don't know what how it'll come out, but it does look like it'll be anywhere from months to more months. Whether that extends into the new year or not, we will see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, focusing on what you do know, the grade is pretty good, and you've written in your literature recently that you observe various forms of gold, including native gold. And just for our viewers, could you go into a bit of depth about that and sort of the different forms of gold that you've discovered? Yeah.
So we've initially at Jupiter, before getting our first assays back, we really didn't have much to go on in terms of, you hit a quartz vein and does it hold gold or not? And most quartz veins, of course, even very high grade quartz veins won't have visible gold in them. So that's a bit of a rarity to see. And so, we didn't even know that there was visible gold in the system when we started out. And so in getting those quartz veins back, we were really using a sulfide mineral as a pathfinder for the gold and relying on that pretty heavily. And so what we've seen now in these latest holes is that, first of all, there's gold in big halos around the quartz veins and in what look like very boring mudstones, and yet we're getting some pretty high grades. And actually, if you look at our latest release, when you see a 1.5 meter interval with 45 grams per ton or 31 grams per ton, what that means is that it's kind of a little bit of egg on our face that these rocks looked so uninteresting to us that 1.5 meters is sort of our default spacing that we go down the hole and sample. And if we see something interesting, we of course try to break it out so that high grade zones don't get smeared and that sort of a thing. And so that we can really understand where the grades are coming from within that interval. But a 1.5 meter interval with that high of a grade means that, we didn't quite pick up on the fact that was going to be significant. So that's pretty good to see. We do have some high grade zones that we split out very nicely, and we are getting a better understanding of where the gold is coming into the system from that. But then these other zones are just, that's news to us and very good news to us. So we're seeing mineralization in the siltstones. We're seeing it in quartz, and not just quartz with sulfide, but what we thought were barren quartz veins. So that's very good to see, and it also has important implications for the metallurgy of the deposit. We haven't done any studies in that vein yet. It's pretty early stage, but seeing gold, seeing native gold, seeing gold without sulfides and other things like that do suggest that it'll be easier to process this kind of deposit from a metallurgical standpoint.
Excellent. Okay, so let's turn to your other deposit at Rogue. What are the updates there, and are you continuing to hit gold?
We are, just to clarify, both of these are of course new discoveries, previously undrilled targets. We certainly hope we're into some big deposits, but we won't know that for sure for some time. We won't know kind of what the scale of the deposits are. But yeah, down at Rogue, it's a different style of system. So I guess I got ahead of myself at Jupiter and didn't really mention that the gold that we're getting into there is epizonal orogenic. So it's these big beautiful quartz veins. We didn't mean to go out and try to find the flavor of the month, but of course epizonal orogenic gold is what's driving the rush in Newfoundland right now. You see some great results coming out of there, and we're very happy to have it on our claims here. Down at Rogue, we're targeting something entirely different, and it's still gold, of course, but it is a much different, or a very different style of gold system. So it's called a reduced intrusion related gold system, and it is what you see at mines like Eagle here in the Yukon. We're actually in similar rocks on the same intrusive belt, and farther to the west along that belt in Alaska, you have some really world-class deposits like Fort Knox, and even potentially Pogo, and so those are 10 million ounce, give or take, deposits that have proven spectacularly successful over the years. And so, but the difference is that we're targeting a big bulk tonnage system here, as opposed to high-grade veins like you see at Jupiter. And so we're really looking for something large, and the grades don't necessarily have to be too high, but obviously higher grade is better. And fortunately, again, like Jupiter, this was a newly identified target, previously untested, very little prospecting at all prior to this season. And we took the time that we were working at Jupiter to really hone in on this target. We found a large system of sheeted quartz veins, and that's what carries the grade in these systems. You have these little veins, they're like anywhere from a half centimeter to a couple centimeters wide, and you just get several of them per meter over a big area. And it's those veins that carry the gold grade across sort of barren rock in between the veins. And what we got into, basically we drilled 4 holes. All 4 holes, we had visible gold in them. So that was very encouraging. We weren't expecting to see visible gold at all in this system. And so to see that is pretty important. And at the same time, the distribution of the visible gold is really exciting. Our first hole, the 21001 at the Valley target at Rogue, it was 161 meters in length. The first instance of visible gold was at 7 meters downhole, and the last instance was actually in the core barrel when we pulled it out. So that was probably 159 meters, give or take. And so we had 31 instances of visible gold throughout the length of that hole, fairly evenly distributed across 161 meters. So that to us is, without getting the assays back, it's a bit of a home run. We'll wait to see, how good or not it is, but certainly it's very encouraging to see that sheeted veining across the entire length of the hole, to see trace amounts of visible gold carried throughout the entire length of the hole, and then to see visible gold in the other holes as well. It certainly suggests that we're into a big system, and the surface work we did suggests the same. There's a 900 meter golden soil anomaly by several hundred meters wide, and even the intrusion that we're drilling into there is not recognized on any previous geological map. So this is super greenfields country, very little work done. And really that's maybe the biggest takeaway from our work this season, is that, at the start of the season, we set out to explore what we thought was a new gold district. That was really Snowline's flagship focus. And I don't think we could have proven that thesis any more spectacularly than we were lucky enough to this season with 2 brand new targets, both carrying visible gold, some really spectacular grades in our first set of discovery holes at Jupiter, and many more assays to come. But basically, we set up saying, look, here's a new district. This hasn't been explored or recognized before. Here we have drilled 2 things on it, and that really seems to hold water. So that's it's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. The success rate of with the targets speaks for itself, and really promising for the district. So you also have other assets in the other targets, in the portfolio that you're looking at. Also providing some optionality towards base metals. Could you give us an update on what's going on there?
Sure. So on our Ursa project, which is a large base metal project, we just finished a VTEM survey, and without looking too scattered in terms of our focus up there, we are pretty well focused on this district, and Ursa is just a stone's throw, if you have a very good arm, I suppose, from Einarson and Rogue. And so, it's right in that neck of the woods. We lumped it in because it does have gold potential, but there's a pretty interesting base metal story there as well, where you have, I think we talked about it a bit last time, but you have, tens of kilometers of very anomalous base metal mineralization, particularly zinc, copper, molybdenum, and there's a little bit of silver kicking around in there, vanadium, a few other elements, nickel is worth noting. And yeah, the zinc values, for instance, in stream sediment samples exceed 1% over the order of kilometers, or 10 kilometers or more, up to 3% zinc in silts. So just wild numbers coming out of there, and definitely worth a follow-up. The only similar geochemical signature on a territorial scale in the Yukon, in the Selwyn Basin, which has some world-class zinc resources, is Howard's Pass, and those are similar aged rocks. It's that's one of the largest undeveloped zinc resources in the world. So, with this in our portfolio, not to have a peek at it would be kind of silly. So, our focus is definitely on Einarson and Rogue and on gold, but we have, we are looking at this, and we do have some funds earmarked for that. And so we completed a 400-kilometer VTEM survey. Gives very extensive coverage of that block. We're still looking at that analytically and figuring out that data as it comes in. So we're excited to see if that brings about new targets, and if that's an avenue that we want to keep pursuing. And then it does provide some optionality. It's a big enough system and a big enough package that could be something that, if it is successful, we can spin out or look at ways to joint venture while we focus on our core ground.
Certainly. Okay, and how are the financials? Last time we spoke, you're obviously in a healthy position and you funded your exploration, but you're doing a lot of work, a lot of drilling now. Are you going to be looking to raise in the new year, if the new year campaign is looking to be equally as aggressive?
We are in a healthy position financially. We have, that some of the dust is still settling on the season, but we're having the order of 2.7 million in the treasury at the moment. And as we go forward, it's enough that we could do another nice season out there, and especially with knowing what we know now, build on these resources in a very nice way. But I think that what we have out there really merits a much more aggressive approach. Now that we really know what we're into, we'd really like to pursue that aggressively. And so we will likely be back to raise. I think the amount of that raise depends on the enthusiasm of the markets at the time. We also don't want to blow ourselves out, but I think the justification is there to go much bigger next season, and I think the appetite is building as the markets sort of realize what we're into out here, and the Snowline story becomes more familiar to more and more people.
Okay, and I also saw that in a news release that you've got some options on a property. How does that play into the overall land package?
That's right. I mean, well, having the validation that we've had of this district scale thesis, it makes sense to try to consolidate the district. And there really isn't a lot of competition, but one other major landholder from the past gold rush did find some pretty interesting results on their land too. And so we were able to come to an option agreement with them that works out very well for us. comparable to the price of staking, and yet we get a data set with some really spectacular targets, or existing projects. So each block that we picked up complements one of our existing blocks, the Ursa project. We tripled its length along this same zone of prospective rocks, covering about 30 kilometers of this trend. And on our Cynthia project down south of Einarson and Rogue, but in the same overall geological district, we picked up a target that is extremely interesting. There's about a 350 meter area with I think it's 8 soil samples that run more than a gram per ton, up to 6 grams per ton in soils that just really hasn't seen much in terms of follow-up at all. So just another very low-hanging fruit in terms of targets for us to drill test, and it really fits in with our strategy of taking on targets, taking on data, building this region, cementing our cornerstone position in this region, and bringing targets into Snowline that are pretty much at the drill discovery stage. It saves us years of high-risk capital if we can just bring in drill-ready targets in an area that we are more and more seeing has that geological potential.
Yeah, certainly. It's certainly gathering pace with the excellent results that you've had so far. So Scott, thanks very much for providing an update on the new holes, all hitting gold. We look forward to catching up later in the calendar as to how those progress and how the assay results come back. So thanks for talking with Assay TV.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. And I look forward to chatting again.
Yep. Cheers.